We are live in living color for another episode of It's Always Sunny in Hollywood, our first episode of 2023, actually. I am your TV guide, Patrick, and I got a story I'd like to tell, but I'm gonna need help to tell it well, so I got my two co-hosts with me. Introduce yourselves, please.
Well, I'm Red Drum Arts.
And I am Lugia. I'm very sorry if I'm feeling under the weather. I just woke up and felt all congested and shit. So I'm probably not going to be talking a whole lot throughout most of this, but it's whatever.
Much excitement from the new year?
Change in season.
Of course. You guys ready for another year of Always Sunny?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
This is the year we get to episode 100.
And we are recording on January 1st.
We are, so Happy New Year. How you guys been spending your break?
Unproductively.
I'm just trying to focus on my mental health because I'm done with college now, and like that fucking sucked.
Oh, you graduated. Congrats.
Assuming they don't fuck me over somehow. You never know. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty much done.
No, you didn't have a ceremony yet or nothing?
Not yet, no. That's not until like May, I think.
They don't do, at our college, they don't do ceremonies in January, I don't think. Do they?
No, not to my knowledge.
My break has primarily been spent in Sonic Frontiers and Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
That's right, because you got those games for Christmas.
I did get them for Christmas, and I'm enjoying them both immensely.
Oh, you got Kirby for Christmas. Okay. Okay, cool.
Quick question, though, Lugia. I talked to you yesterday, and you asked me what my thoughts on the first boss in Sonic Frontiers was. I didn't have much to say. Should I have had more to say?
Dude, that boss was like a fucking game changer for the entire franchise. You have no idea.
Because it's the first boss in the game and you have to use Supersonic?
Yeah?
That was cool.
Huh. Like me, use Supersonic in Sonic 2, 8. Okay. Technically, you can use Supersonic on the first boss fight in Sonic 2, so like...
Well, yeah, but...
My philosophy is, though, why would you do that? Because the half-pipe sucks.
I've only gotten to the second world so far in Sonic Frontiers. I'm actually genuinely surprised, because in promotional material and commercials and stuff, I've only seen the first world. You know, that Breath of the Wild field world.
So you're not, you weren't expecting a straight-up desert level?
I was not, because like it's funny, I'm playing the game, I'm like, I'm having fun, but I do wish there was more visual variety. Desert. Okay. Like, no, I'm down. I'm
glad you're enjoying the game so far, though.
Oh, it's great. And don't even get me started on a Forgotten Land. Like, dude, controlling Kirby in a 3D world, or like a pseudo Crash Bandicoot-like 3D world, that is just great.
I was about to say, did you forget about Kirby Air Ride?
I did not. But I mean, you know, an official platform game.
I love Mouthful Mode because it's very funny the way Kirby's mouth is.
It's a good time is being had by all, and by all, I mean me. Anyway, what else has been going on?
Well, now I need to rethink the present I was going to give you. So shit. Let's see. In my personal life, things have been good, you know. You guys have anything else to say?
Not really. It's been a pretty lucky break.
I know I gave Patrick the both Mega Man X collections, so now he has some of the best games of all time and some of the worst games of all time.
Yes, you got the Mega Man X1 and X2, and is X4 in the first half of the collection?
Yes.
So what's the point of getting the X2 collection?
People kind of like X5 and X8, I guess.
And how many games are there in the X2 collection?
X5 is fine, but like it's basically just a lesser X4. Kind of like how X3 is a lesser X2. There are 3 good Mega Man X games in my opinion.
I think the first 5 are just good, but like X3 and X5 are definitely like the weaker parts of that. And don't even get me started on X6. Like, holy shit, that game's a fucking mess.
X3 and X5 are not bad games, they're just mediocre. But X1, 2, and 4 are great, in my opinion.
It goes all the way up to... How many are there?
8.
8.
I've never played 8, but I have heard good things about it.
Were there ever plans for a 9th, or was it always just 8?
I think Capcom did tease an X9, but we haven't gotten anything about that yet.
they were gonna make it, but by the time like X8 came out, the Mega Man franchise kind of like stopped being a big moneymaker for him.
I
Yeah.
assume this was like the early 2010s.
No, it was like 2000s. X8
Oh.
was like a PS2 game.
Ah,
Now we have all these different Mega Man subseries like Battle Network and Zero.
I am
Yeah.
not the person to talk to about Mega Man. As of right now, the only Mega Man game I've played is 2.
I'd say the original, the classic series. All the games are good in the classic series. Even 8. 8 isn't like amazing, but it's fine. And you get the glorious voice acting.
Ah, yes. Dr.
Dr.
Wowie.
Wowie.
Yep.
Wowie.
Yeah. Even like Mega Man and Bass, it's like it's not great, but like it's okay, you know, if you play as Bass. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to the game show thing. Welcome. Today we are gonna talk about let's just talk about some news that happened, I guess, since our last episode. A lot of deaths, surprisingly, like in the last week of December. You guys like hear about all these like celebrity deaths and stuff?
I have
Two
not,
of them.
no.
Okay, so Barbara Walters passed away. She was a very well-known interviewer.
That I did hear about.
Yes. Soccer legend Pele passed away. They all all these people like died, you know, pretty late. Like they're old, so you know they lived good lives. Pope Benedict passed away.
That I also heard about.
Yes.
That was like just yesterday, like literally the last day of the year.
Vivienne Westwood passed away. She was this big name in the fashion world. And this is just a personal one, but Jeremiah Green passed away. He was the drummer for Modest Mouse, which is a band I'm a fan of. So yeah. Other than that, the only real big news I can think about is, you know, Andrew Tate got arrested. And it's very funny, actually, the story he got arrested. So basically, Andrew Tate, for no reason, decided to just start shit with Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg owned him on Twitter using like playground insults, which is pretty funny. And this offended Andrew Tate so much he made a response video. But his response video accidentally informed the Romanian government of where he was. So they arrested him because he was wanted by the Romanian government.
And it was all because he had a pizza box on screen?
Yeah, basically, and the reason he put the pizza box in there was just to be like, give me some pizza, bitch, and also make sure it's not recycled. So it was literally just like a shitty, really bad joke just to upset Greta Thunberg, but like, yeah, he just completely.
Wow.
Yeah. Andrew Tate.
Wow.
Yeah, Andrew Tate is a dumb bitch.
I think he's out of jail now because money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he could obviously post bail, but he still has to like go to court and shit for his trial. You know, speaking of Sonic, since we were talking about it earlier, what happened with Yuji Naka? Did he get like a third charge or something?
He's currently being investigated. He hasn't been arrested for a third time, but like he's still like suspected of insider trading.
That reminds me, I saw a meme that said, Sonic, how many times has Yuji Naka been arrested? And it's the Sonic 3 box art with him holding up 3 fingers. 3, that's 3 times.
I can imagine for the first one, it's that Snapcube meme where Sonic says, ha ha ha, 1!
Yeah. He created the fastest hedgehog alive, but he cannot outrun the law. It reminds me of that one episode of Batman the Animated Series where Joker's like, I may be a psychotic killer. He's like, I may be able to go up against Batman, but the IRS, hell no.
Yeah.
Like Joker pays his taxes. Like that's just like a hilarious like detail.
This world needs a better class of criminals.
Speaking of being on the run, should we jump right into the main course?
No.
Come on, that was a perfect segue.
Unfortunately, no, because I got a couple other things to talk about. But
and I do have something to say about one of them.
Modern movies. So I saw Black Adam, the latest DC movie. I did it. I saw it while I was doing laundry after I did my final, because I was like, fuck it. I just wanted to put something in the background. Terrible film. Do not recommend it. I give it like a 3 out of 10. It's ugly as shit and boring as hell. The characters are flat. It tries to look like a Snyder movie, but it looks much worse than it, and it really shows you that Snyder, for all of his faults, is a good director. The needle drops are really bad. Yeah. I do not recommend you watch Black Adam. The other movie I saw was Knives Out 2. That one is much better than Black Adam, but I also am pretty mixed on it. I did really like the first Knives Out, but I feel like Knives Out 2 really leaned into a lot of the elements that I didn't like about the first Knives Out and kind of missed a lot of what I did like. I don't think Rian Johnson is very good at writing mysteries. He is good at creating like these kind of fun scenarios. So I had fun with the movie. I did like Knives Out 2 ultimately, but the twist in the first Knives Out and making it this kind of like crime flick, that was actually like pretty inventive. I don't think the twist here was nearly as good.
I like how you
and
keep
I
calling
thought
it
the
Knives
movie-
Out 2 and not by its official name.
Yeah, Glass Onion. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. It's also like way too long. Like I think the bloating, the pacing is bloated because basically, it's like 40 minutes of setup, and then you get another 40 minutes, which is basically just kind of reiterating the first half, but just from like a different angle. And I feel like you could have cut like both of those by like 20 minutes, and nothing would have been lost. So I don't know.
So I also saw
enjoyed
Glass
it.
Onion, and
Yeah.
I have some similar feelings about how that movie is structured. I will agree that, especially with the second half, where they're like reiterating everything that's happening, but with like a different focal point. I
Yeah.
think that could have been cut down tremendously. The twist was not as impactful. The movie was still good, and I think the cinematography was probably even better than the first one.
See, that's where
But
I
I think
disagree.
all in
I
all,
think the
Knives Out 1 is
cinematography-
probably better.
I actually disagree with the cinematography because I think the cinematography of the first one's a little bit better. I think it's mostly just like, I guess the way they like color graded or something. Because I feel like this has like a very digital look. I know the first movie was shot on like film, I think, or at least they try to give it like a film look. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This one I could tell they shot it on something different, and I don't know. It threw me off a little. Daniel Craig is really
think-
fun.
Given the locations, I think it worked for the better.
It's better than Triangle of Sadness, which it's a kind of similar movie to Triangle of Sadness. So yeah, I criticized that last week or last
I mean, I
episode.
guess I should join in. I did see Knives Out too, but I actually saw it when it was in theaters for that limited run.
Oh.
Oh, did the big screen experience
Um,
heighten it or something?
I'll say it was very fun watching it with an audience.
Yes, I imagine that would be fun. Yeah.
Like it was a packed theater, and like everybody was reacting to it. It was great. I did really like it. I do agree that the third act is a bit bloated, but I still thought it was a really fun time. Like the set design
Yeah.
in this one, like the first film had a really great set design, but this one with this huge glass house and everything, oh my god, it was
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, just brief rundown. Daniel Craig was great, easily like the best part of these movies. And this movie had more of him, so that was even better. The humor was pretty hit or miss like the last movie, but I think it hit a little bit more for me than the last film. Although I think some of the themes and commentary in here is a little bit weaker. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I like the Knives Out movies more than all of Rian Johnson's other films, so I hope he makes more of them. I know that there's a third one
Yeah, he is
coming
currently
out.
making a third one.
Yeah.
What do you think this one's going to be called?
I think it would be really funny if the third Knives Out just adapted one of the new Sherlock one of the Sherlock stories that just went to the public domain.
Well, the Knives Out movies are based on books, right?
No.
No, they're completely original.
Really? Okay.
They're inspired by Agatha Christie novels, but like they're nothing actually like Agatha Christie novels.
Gotcha.
Now, want to talk about Catch Me If You Can?
Yes. I'm telling you that going from Yuji Naka to Catch Me If You Can would have been a perfect segue. Whatever. Glass Onion is a good movie. Glad we talked about it. Anyway, yes. Catch Me If You Can. This was directed by Steven Spielberg, a familiar name around here. We talked about Jaws and Duel before, so
Yes.
right
This
now
came out in 2002, which is
Did,
very
and-
funny because Eight Crazy Nights came out in 2002.
What?
Which
Two
is
movies came out in 2002? That's
Back,
crazy.
yeah, but we're talking about them back to back though, which I just think is funny.
All right.
And the other Sandler movie we talked about, Punch Drunk Love, also came out in 2002. Everything's connected.
And another animated
we-
movie that we talked
we-
about was Turning Red, which takes place in 2002.
Yes, we like 2002 almost as much as we like 2006. Anyway, this is based on the semi-autobiographical book of the same name by former con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. More on him later. The book was published in 1980, and Ironically, the rights to make it into a movie was its own game of catch. See, originally Columbia Pictures was going to make it, then Disney, then TriStar, then Paramount, and then it landed at DreamWorks with Spielberg producing. All over the place. But that's not the only game of catch, because originally David Fincher was going to direct it. He was on board for a few months, but he eventually left, and Gore Verbinski took
Jesus
over.
Christ, that would have been an insanely different movie if Fincher directed it. Holy shit.
First rule about Pan Am, never talk about Pan Am. Anyway, after David Fincher left, Gore Verbinski came in. But he too left and was replaced with Lasse Hallström. I hope I'm saying that right. But he also dropped out, and after that, Spielberg just said, you know what? I'm going to direct this myself. Filming lasted just 52 days across 147 locations. The film released in 2002, where it was very well received critically, and against a budget of $52 million, it made $352 million worldwide. And it also earned 2 Oscar nominations, being Best Original Score for John Williams and Best Supporting Actor for Christopher Walken. A few things to note about.
Of course, it's got to be Christopher Walken, my boy.
Imagine if he won the award. Thank you, Academy.
I just want to say, yeah, two little mice.
Do you know what? I'm imagining like.
You know, my son, Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a bird man.
My son, Leonardo, do you know what I had to do to give you this airplane? I shoved up my ass.
A few things to note about the film after it came out is, one, Spielberg was genuinely surprised that Amy Adams' career wasn't boosted by this film, because the film was very successful and she was relatively unknown. But no, it wouldn't be until a few years later that she actually became really well known. In fact, she considered ditching out and switching to musical theater, actually. I believe Enchanted was when she really established herself as a leading lady.
That was what year?
2007.
Okay.
Another thing is that in 2011, a musical adaptation of the film ran on Broadway, which that is where the opening of this podcast came from, and spoiler alert, that's also where the ending's going to come from. And now let's take a second to talk about the real Frank Abagnale Jr., because Frank has said that certain parts of his book were exaggerated for dramatic effect.
Yeah, and later it was found out that most of the book was actually bullshit.
That's what I'm getting at. In recent years, there's been developments that most of his story maybe strongly didn't actually happen.
Which I think is the greatest scam of all, because he was able to trick society into believing that he was a better con artist than he was.
So,
yeah.
Just for the sake of everything, I'm just going to look at this movie as a movie. I'm not looking at it based on his life, because I'll be real, I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know anything about his life story or anything. This is the only thing I know. And he had no involvement in this. The only thing he did in this movie was he wrote the book it's based on, and he cameoed in a scene. That is it. Anyway, enough beating around the bush. Let's get into what this film is actually about. Catch Me If You Can is about Frank Abagnale Jr.
That's Abagnale, not Abagnale, not Abagnale. It's Abagnale.
A 16-year-old who ran away from home after his parents divorced, where he made a living impersonating a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer. And during this time, he also cashed $2 million worth of fraudulent checks from 1964 to 1969 across 26 different countries, while also being pursued by the FBI. And this is his story. Story that we'd like to tell.
The story that's fake!
Anyway,
listen, so we talked about Fargo, and that said based on a true story, but it was complete lies.
Yeah.
Sometimes a true story can be fake and be great.
So, I've told you guys before that this is that one movie for me I always saw on the shelf at video stores. It always stuck out to me with that blurred image of Leonardo DiCaprio running from Tom Hanks. That title, Catch Me If You Can. What is he running from? Insinuating a chase? What's he being chased by? It always stuck out to me, but I never actually watched it until now.
Yeah.
And I know that this is one of your favorites, Red. Lugia, do you have any connection to this film?
No. I just know about it by name, but I haven't seen it until just yesterday.
Right.
See, the funny thing about this movie is I remember when I first saw it, I saw it on a complete whim because I was just looking through Spielberg stuff and like the poster looked interesting, and I was like, I never hear anyone talk about this one, and I was like, why not? I put it on, and I'm like, this is like one of his best movies. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah, like straight up, This is like my third favorite Spielberg movie, and the third one that I would give a 10 out of 10 to.
Yeah, I think
My
this was
top
a really well-crafted film. I mean, everyone knows Spielberg for his classics, but like, I feel like this is one of his more underrated works.
Like my top two is Jurassic Park and Jaws, but like that's like most people's top two. This one though is like something special.
This is different compared to the other Spielberg films that we've talked about. This is a much more laid-back film. Because Jaws and Duel are like big chase spectacles. This is something different. This is much smaller.
I mean, it's still a chase at the end of the day.
It is a chase, but it's a much less action-packed chase.
This to me is So here's the thing. You know how Indiana Jones was basically like his attempt at making James Bond?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is his attempt at making like a Hitchcock type spy movie. Because like I feel like this movie has like a lot similar to like Hitchcock movies, like the 39 Steps and North by Northwest is kind of like snappy but like laid back and fun sort of thing. I even think like it was intentionally trying to draw from James Bond because like the theme played at one point and like Frank
he was watching James Bond
and he tried cosplaying as him.
Yeah, he tries getting suits like him. So like I don't know, I feel like this is like oddly like his Bond movie, even though like Indiana Jones was meant to be his Bond movie. But yeah, this movie means a lot to me just on a personal level. This was one of the films that like was the real watershed moment to me, where like this was one of the movies that made me want to make movies. Like
really.
Yeah, like I've always wanted like so you guys know me. Growing up, I was always like more into comic books and TV shows. Like if you asked me what I want to be in like middle school, I probably would have said like I want to make a TV show like The Simpsons. So I always had an interest in like the film world, but my interest was always more rooted in television. This was the one that made me be like, actually, I want to be a filmmaker. Like this is what got me into movies. The first story I ever actually wrote, the first like movie story I ever wrote, was inspired by this. Where basically like the way I would pitch it, was like I wrote if Frank Abagnale was a hacker, because I learned about like social engineering in like my computer science class, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I try to like combine the two. So yeah, the first screenplay I ever wrote was a blatant ripoff of this movie.
It's a combination of Hackers and Catch Me If You Can.
Speaking of comic books, I find it funny how the Flash is actually an integral plot point here.
Yeah.
But what I find even funnier is that when he realizes that Barry Allen is the name of the Flash, he realizes, okay, we've narrowed it down. Our subject is a kid. That would not be narrowed down anything today.
Yeah, nowadays it wouldn't mean shit. But like in 2002, remember, this movie came out the year that Spider-Man 1 came out. So like this 2002 was like the year that the tide started to shift. That's when comic books started becoming mainstream. But prior to that, nope.
Well, doesn't this movie take place in like the 60s?
Yeah, the mid-60s. Which makes it even funnier to me. No, this movie did have some pretty nice moments of comic relief. Like knock knock, who's there? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and the second time they do that, Jag, they don't even finish with the punchline.
Finish it. Nope, it's great.
No, that is the punchline.
Yeah, that's what's so good about it.
So quick question: did people not do background checks in the 60s? Did they just go off like a resume?
Yes and no.
He literally just brings up the resume. They're like, "All right, you're hired."
The number he probably put there was probably like fake or whatever. And I know with the bar exam thing, like the idea was like he was getting vouched for from like a very well respected guy. So yeah,
that's one thing I want to say. Like, even though what this guy's doing is highly illegal, like you got to tip your hat to him for like the way he's doing it. Like, I like how he buys a bunch of Pan Am planes just to take the sticker off to make his fake check look authentic.
Yeah.
And also the way he tricks the FBI at the Miami airport is that got a good laugh out of me.
Here's the thing, knowing that this story is mostly a work of fiction honestly made it like a little bit better for me, just because like this movie has like just such this like fantastical element to it, and like almost like this like fairy tale kind of quality to it at times, because like that's just kind of like Spielberg style, but like the kind of like lightness it has, I think like really benefits kind of the unrealism.
Actually, I do have one question. Something I didn't understand. Why does the movie start with a game show?
I think just to make it interesting.
I think I think that's leaning into unrealism thing I'm doing too, where like the whole movie is kind of like this story, this kind of like dramatization, and like the Hitchcocky elements I was telling you about, because like Hitchcock, his movie was like super stylized, not super realistic. I think I was trying to like lean into that because it's a movie about the 60s that's filmed like a 60s film.
All right.
Like,
I was just thinking it was another one of those whimsical elements in the film, especially once it's followed by the silhouette cast roll at the beginning.
I also thought like it was part of like it kind of lent itself to like just the setting and the kind of time period, because like movies got kind of a timeless thing, but I feel like it being in the 60s is like so important, and that's like showing like this kind of like game showy thing kind of gives it its sort of like
Well, I was just confused because they never actually go back to it. It's just in the beginning, and that's it.
I feel like it was kind of just sort of set up, I think it was more of a thematic thing than any like literal thing for like a plot reason.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this was also the movie that made me care about Leonardo DiCaprio. So like prior to this, I don't think Leo was particularly like great. I didn't like love him in anything. This was the movie where like that started to change. Like this and the stuff he did onward is like when I think he became one of the greatest actors of his generation. Like prior to this film, I was like, I don't know. Like this is when
looking back, I think I agree with that, because I've seen the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet and Titanic, and I mean he's good in those films, but
he doesn't he's not like a real powerhouse.
No,
like
people just like them because he was hot back then.
Yeah, and The Quick and the Dead is like it's fun, but it's like a pulpy like light fun movie. It's not like nothing that really shows acting chops, but like he shows some real great range here. Like the charisma is believable and the genuine emotion. Like I could tell. Like I felt like he genuinely did care about Amy Adams, and especially like the ending. The acting in the ending is like so good with like
Oh yeah, when he's at home and he's at his mom's house and he's looking in the window to see that she's moved on.
Yeah,
there's nowhere else to look.
And like, throughout he just did a fantastic job, especially when Tom Hanks comes to his apartment and he just acts like a secret service officer.
Yeah, all the phone calls he has with Tom Hanks too in the movie I think are like really amazing. So like yeah,
especially when he like makes fun of him saying, "Hey, I know why you called me. Because you have no one else to call." Like, damn, that line hit deep.
Yeah. Christopher Walken is obviously,
he's a highlight. He always is. Especially in that one movie where what was it? I can't pronounce the name of it. But it's the one where it's like J-Lo and Ben Affleck. He's in that movie for one scene and he's the highlight of that movie because the rest of it's shit. No.
Geely?
Yes.
Geely?
Yeah.
Oh, Giggly, yeah.
Giggly?
Al Pacino's also in that for some reason.
I never know how to pronounce that title. I've heard so many different ways to say it. I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
But no matter the movie, you can expect Christopher Walken to put on a show.
They call me Perkins. Get it? Perkins. 9 Lives is such a bad film. He's even good in that. But yeah. But I actually think like I feel like the heart of the movie is very much like the relationships in his life, because like the father-son relationship is like the first real one. Then the Amy Adams stuff. Then his relationship with Tom Hanks. I feel like as brief as Amy Adams and Christopher Walken's like appearances are in this movie, they are like so important. They really stand out. I do believe this was like Amy Adams' like breakout performance. This was like the first movie that got her like real. That was her like first major role.
Like I said, Spielberg was genuinely surprised that she didn't take off after this, at least not immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she just wasn't given enough screen time? I don't know.
I don't know either. But, I mean, nice to see where she is now.
Yeah, her and Leonardo DiCaprio are like memed around for a long time about being like the one directors that never, whatchamacallit, got Oscars. And the Leo got Oscars, so now it's just Amy. But yeah. Josh Brolin and Martin Sheen, I forgot that they were in the movie, like, when I rewatched it. I was like, oh, shit. That cast and performances were all great.
And also
Visually,
that score, man.
Yeah.
want to talk about cinematography now?
Yeah.
So I thought visually this was Spielberg's best movie of the 2000s because during the 2000s like he had this like change in his style and I don't really think it really worked except for this movie. Like if you notice like a lot of the times like you see windows the lights are like really like blown out and stuff. He did that a lot. But I think it really added to this because like I mentioned like it had this movie had a very like light almost like fairy tale element to it and I feel like that really like benefited the way like the lighting was in
I would
particular.
agree. I really like the way this movie plays with lighting. Like when he first sees the pilot step out of the cab, how the light shines on his face, or the cold gray colors of when he's alone on Christmas Eve
Yeah.
Yeah.
calling Carl.
I like the detail he has with all like the roads where like they're like it always looks like it just rained. And that was like an intentional thing. Like Spielberg got them to like dump like buckets of water on like the pavement and stuff because he just like liked the look of like wet pavement and stuff. And I don't know, I also like the look of that. So, props to you. But yeah, the sunny day right after rain thing, I feel like that gives like that really like character sets the tone of this film a lot because he's always like running, so he'll never like the sad shit will never like catch up to him, and like once the sadness actually hits, that makes like the cloudiness kind of like it really gets the idea that he's trying to like outrun the rain. He's trying to outrun the clouds and stuff. You get it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say, like thematically? So,
Oh yeah.
I realized I didn't really talk about Tom Hanks. One of his strongest. He's never really put in a weak performance, and this is one of his strong ones. It's funny how much I sympathize with him because I do not like the FBI. In my eyes, the ending is somewhat of a tragedy, but he's able to make it feel like he's working with the FBI, but at least he's got his good old friend Tom or Carl Hanratty.
Carl Hanratty.
Yeah, Carl.
Carl Hanratty.
So I think we've been talking pretty positively about this movie. Do we have any criticisms?
I mean, my biggest question or criticism, whatever, was I was confused about the game show in the beginning. Other than that, not really.
Because there's just one thing about the movie that bugs me, and it's the time jumps. Because very briefly, for very short clips, we have Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks in the present, like, talking. And I felt like the movie could have done away with that. I don't think those were very necessary inclusions. I don't know, what do you guys think?
It didn't really bother me.
Yeah, it didn't really bother me either. But I mean,
they were small and very few and far between, but it's just something I noticed that bugged me a little.
I guess it's kind of just their way of trying to like entice you to be like, oh, how did we get to this point?
I thought it was like an idea that like while everything's like fun now, it's gonna catch up to him eventually.
I guess.
Just like a reminder.
But I guess it also kind of takes away from the suspense. Like, is Tom Hanks gonna catch him or no?
I guess, but I feel like
I can see it either way, but I personally thought it was okay.
Yeah.
It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Not at all.
One thing I want to mention. So earlier I talked about how Punch Drunk Love also came out in 2002, but I don't know if you guys noticed it, but like I feel like the filmmaking in this and Punch Drunk Love, like they're really similar to me. Like when I think of 2002, like those are the two movies I think of because like they're so specific in the way they're filmed, but like they remind me of each other a lot. I don't know if you guys were reminded of.
I kind of see it. It's just been so long since we saw Punch Drunk Love.
I can see with certain aspects of the cinematography, like the overexposure of the lighting.
Yeah, the overexposure of the lighting, the kind of bluey tone they had to it, just the kind of pacing, that kind of off-kilter but fast pacing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, overall, I give this like a 10 out of 10. Loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad I finally saw this after being enticed by it for so long.
Yeah, no, this was fantastic.
We're 3 for 3 with Spielberg.
Yes.
Has he ever done a shitty movie?
I mean, yeah. Everyone. I think most people consider that like his output after this movie to actually be like pretty weak, except for like Tintin and West Side Story. Every 10 years he like puts out a banger, at least one banger. But 1941 is considered pretty bad. Yeah, I know. I will say
it will be a while before I jump back to Spielberg since I just did 2 of his movies very close. But I mean, if you guys have something in mind, by all means, go for it.
All right.
Yeah.
But
speaking
for me,
of which,
I'm gonna take a break.
yeah, it was actually funny. So, this had like a very like old school kind of Hollywood vibe, and I kind of want to lean back into that too. And I was gonna recommend Double Indemnity, but then I realized, wait, that's directed by Billy Wilder, and the last movie I directed was by Billy Wilder, so I decided against that. So instead, I decided to jump into a new filmmaker, Brian De Palma. My recommendation:
Palma.
he's best known for directing Scarface, but
Okay.
Okay.
what I want to explore with him is he loves to make he is basically like the second coming of Hitchcock, as in like all of his movies are basically like most of his movies are Hitchcockian type thrillers, and but like kind of updated for like whatever time period he's like leaning into, like with more, maybe more 70s sleaze, maybe more 80s slickness to it. And the film I want to explore today for next week was a Blowout, which is my personal favorite De Palma movie. It is also Tarantino's favorite De Palma movie. In fact, this is the film that got him to hire John Travolta for Pulp Fiction. Yeah, little fun fact ahead of time. But here's an interesting thing I want to ask you guys. So I'm perfectly fine with us just watching this on its own, but if you were up for a double feature, this movie and a movie directed by Francis Ford Coppola called The Conversation are very similar to each other, kind of exploring a similar subject matter with like conspiracy and surveillance and like audio stuff, and both are kind of remakes of this movie called Blow Up, which is about photography, but like they decide to take an audio route. So if you guys want to, we could also watch The Conversation by Francis Ford Coppola.
I think we got time, right?
I personally prefer one movie at a time, but if you guys want to do a double feature, yeah, sure.
If it's inconvenient, then we won't do it.
I'm saying The Conversation is optional. I mostly want to talk about Blowout, but it would be interesting to like just mention The Conversation along it, because I highly doubt I'm going to recommend that. And this is so yeah. It's just if you guys want to also check out The Conversation, I'll talk about it briefly next episode. But my recommendation is Blowout, Brian De Palma.
Okay, I'll check out The Conversation on my own time though.
Oh, yeah, I'll try to make time for it. I mean, we're on break. I probably have time. But... All right, yeah, Blowout.
Yeah, this has some of my favorite shots in like film ever. So definitely, the visuals here is. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, definitely.
So will that do it for Catch Me If You Can?
I believe so.
Yes.
All right, so there's nothing left inside our heads because everything that's left to say has been said. So goodbye. Just pretend I sang that last part up the octave.